Order, and I call the honourable member for Hotham.
So much, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, there are so many policy areas that make me incredibly proud to be a Labor member of this parliament, whether it's the fairness that we put towards our health policies, the equity in our education policies. We're a party that's very clear about what our values are, and we build really good policies around it. But there's few policies that make me more proud of the work we've done on this side of the House than the National Broadband Network policy. We've watched in the last few days and weeks as those on the other side have constantly turned back and looked to their past. We've seen them have these awful fights between themselves. We've seen cabinet leaks, and all this time those of us on this side of the House have been looking to the future, Deputy Speaker. And what we are concerned about is a massive transformation that is happening because of the digital revolution. Now, I've got my friend, the member for Gellibrand, sitting in front of me, and one of the really fascinating facts that he likes to talk about is that these smartphones that we all walk around in our pockets are actually more powerful computer systems than the computer systems that put 2 men on the moon. Deputy Speaker, the implications of this revolution for the way that we live and work in this country are absolutely profound. In 2013, an Oxford University study showed that about half of all of the jobs that exist today will be gone in 2 decades because of technology. Now, in the face of these facts, what we do on the Labor side of the House is think about what this means for the country and what we can do to help the people we represent prepare for this transformation. Now, we know, Deputy Speaker, that the piece of infrastructures that helped us build the prosperity we enjoy today are going to be different, the ones that helped us in the past from the ones that we need in the future. And what we need in the future, Deputy Speaker, is world-class broadband. This is going to underpin all the innovation and the prosperity that lays ahead for our country. So we put forward a visionary nation-building policy, and, Deputy Speaker, it was a policy that was so necessary. When we look at the facts about the performance of our broadband in Australia, it's actually quite terrifying. And we've seen in the 2 years that the current Prime Minister was the Communications Minister us fall further and further back on global rankings, so that now, Deputy Speaker, we are 44th in the world for our broadband speeds, according to the Akamai recent report. And I mean, when I just look, Deputy Speaker, at the countries that are whipping us on this, countries like Latvia, countries like the Czech Republic, like Romania, like Taiwan, like Russia, Deputy Speaker. And we're trying to compete in a global economy and support a high-skill, high-wage, prosperous nation, and we've got this problem sitting in front of us. Now, we had a good policy, a real policy that was going to solve this problem, fibre to the home to 90% of Australian households, Deputy Speaker. But what we had was this minister, this Prime Minister, who thinks he really knows everything, Deputy Speaker. We saw that today in question time. It's a little bit embarrassing, I have to say. But he brought that hubris into the communications portfolio, and what did we see? What's come out the other end after 2 years? What we saw was a minister who thought he knew better come in and say that he could deliver a similar product for a much lower cost. And he told us that this was going to cost $29.5 billion, Deputy Speaker. After 2 years, because of his mismanagement, Deputy Speaker, because of his lack of understanding about what would need to happen to get the policy in place, the cost has almost doubled. And that's not the only thing, because the speeds we're going to see, the speed of the rollout is going to be completely different. We were told by this minister that it would be 3 years in rollout. Instead, it's 7 years, Deputy Speaker, before we're going to see a big difference in my community in Hotham. We know, Deputy Speaker, that the mix of technologies that's being put forward by the Communications Minister, now the Prime Minister, is going to deliver broadband which is of a much lesser quality. Broadband for the past, Deputy Speaker, not the broadband for the future that Labor was proposing. Now, Deputy Speaker, I really feel this in my role as a member for Hotham. Some of the people in this chamber might not realise this, but we have incredible problems with internet connections and internet speeds in my electorate. And, Speaker, I don't represent an electorate that's hundreds of kilometres from a major centre. I'm 20 kilometres from the inner city of Melbourne, and yet I'm constantly getting complaints for people in my electorate who can't get connected to broadband. And we're sick of it, Deputy Speaker. It's ridiculous in a country like Australia that we haven't solved this problem, and we haven't solved it because of the poor performance of the current Prime Minister. Now, Deputy Speaker, this is not just a problem affecting homes in my community, and this is a fantastic example of the economic importance of this. Recently, all of my local mayors, Liberal, Labor and non-aligned, wrote to me desperate for answers as to how we're going to get broadband into our local businesses. And they did a study of people in industrial areas near the southeast region of Melbourne, showing that 85% of businesses in this area are relying on ADSL. Now, this is not a policy for the future, Deputy Speaker. This is a policy of the past. We can do better, and the Communications Minister should know that.